Okay, moving on, we're going to look at the Red Eye tool. And if you haven't already downloaded the Chapter 6 photos, you can do that from Blackboard. And we are going to get going. So in Blackboard, in addition to the usual way of getting your book files, which you probably already have, I do have a download folder for Chapter 6 and 7. We're only doing Chapter 6, so however you get to it, whether it's through this folder or the book files, is fine by me. But the image that we want is the one called Girl JPEG. And we're going to go into this and we're going to look at some of the remaining tools to fix an image like this. Okay, finally open. The first thing we're going to start with is we're just going to kind of take a peek at this image. I'm going to zoom in on her eyes and we can see that we have some red eye issue, which is caused from a flash being located fairly close to the lens. So in a compact camera this happens, and we need to fix this. And this tool is nested somewhere. Here we go. Under the spot healing brush, which looks like a band-aid with some dots around it, we have our red eye tool. And we need to switch to that tool right away. And the way that this works is pretty easy. It looks for red and it desaturates it. So sometimes a single click on the red portion will do the trick. Sometimes it's not enough and you still get remnants. That looks like a pretty good job of it. Another thing that you could do is drag out a small marquee around the size of the pupil. And as you can see, that didn't work real well. So I'm going to click a couple more times here. Whew. Another thing you can do if this isn't working real well is adjust the option bar. I'm going to wait for this to catch up with me. We can change the pupil size, make that a little bit bigger, or we could change the bin amount. So maybe try both of those a little bit bigger, and that looks pretty good now. So the thing you want to be careful about is how you're using this. I'm going to draw a marquee under her eye and show you that what it really is doing is desaturating reds. So if I did it over her lip, I'm going to end up having like a black lip or black eyes, parts under her eye that are black. We don't want to desaturate parts that shouldn't be touched. So when you're using this tool, make sure that you stick to the eyeball. And again, it's usually a single click or a marquee over the red part of the eye. I'm going to back this up all the way to the open point and just try it with single clicks again. There we go. Okay, that looks pretty good. So the red eye tool is very simple. Next, we're going to learn about some of these other tools that are nested here. So we have spot healing, healing brush, patch tool. Content aware move we'll get to later in the book. We're not going to get to that right now, but these three we are going to use. So why don't you switch out to the spot healing brush. And then I also want to show you, if we move down 2 tools, we have what looks like a rubber stamp. This is the clone stamp tool. And that one we're going to use quite a bit also. So this tool in combination with the healing tools is probably where you're going to do the bulk of your editing. So the first thing that we wanted about doing non-destructive editing. I did change her pupils and I did that destructively, meaning once I save this file, we can't go back. And that's okay. I don't think you ever really want the red version back. But everything else that we're going to do, we're going to want to be real careful about non-destructive editing so that if we do something that they're not happy with, we can always go back to the original. And to do that, we like to work non-destructively by making new layers. So if we come to our layer panel and click on the new icon, oops, I clicked twice, we're going to get 2. So my computer's so slow, sorry. We meant to make 1. Take that one down to the trash. Oh gosh. Delete. Go away, number 2. Yes. Okay, layer number 1 that we just added. We are going to just rename this healing brush so we know what we're doing on this layer. Wow. Healing brush with an H. There we go. All right. Using this brush, we need to look up at our option bar, and we also need to go to the healing brush. That's the one with the Band-Aid, and it's outside of it. That's our healing brush. We need to make sure that sample all layers is turned on, because without it, we're going to be working on this layer and there's literally nothing there. For it to work, it needs to be able to sample the layer below it to make things functional. So how we use this tool, this is an awesome tool. I'm just going to go with the freckle right here under her eye. Not that that's a blemish, but I'm going to use it as an example. First thing we do is make our cursor smaller, a little bit bigger than the blemish. And the reason we're doing that, I'm going to zoom in. Oh, beach ball. There we go. The reason I'm making my cursor a little bit bigger than the blemish is because Photoshop is going to sample clean areas around the perimeter of this brush and use them to fill in the area under the brush. And it's also going to blend lighting and opacity as needed. So the cool thing with this tool is you click once, it turns black, but a second later it's fixed. And it used the skin around this area to improve it. So another blemish, we can click on that one and it's gone. And if we go over to this side of her face and we want to get rid of these blemishes, we can do that. It's gone. So all of these changes are being made on this layer. So that's important also to note. Another thing that's kind of important to note is we're using a fairly hard brush, and maybe that's risky. Maybe we want a bit softer brush. So now I took care of a freckle up here, but now when I look at my healing brush layer, you can see how this one has a softer edge. That's going to be a better, a safer edit probably. So I would make sure that when you're using this healing brush, you have a softer brush. So we can go back and turn on our background layer, and any place you see a blemish, we can clean that up. Now another cool thing about this tool is that you don't have to click once. You can actually well, I'll say drive around with it. I'll show you what I mean. See this hair that's on her face? I can drive over this. I'll stop right there. And it's going to do a good job of removing that for me. There we go. Not bad. I have to be careful down in areas like this where the hair goes, oops, where the hair goes over a shadow and into her lip and down here. I'm going to try this, but hopefully it will show some of the potential options too. Slow as mine. Okay, so it did a decent job everywhere else, but it blurred from skin tones into lip tones, and you wouldn't want that. So I'm going to do an undo. We don't want that blur there. It's okay down in this part, but when you start to get close to an area where you don't want that blur, we're going to have to use the clone stamp tool. And that's why I said there are a variety of tools and we need to use them all very wisely. So that tool was our healing brush. The next one nested under it is the healing, or that was a spot healing brush, sorry. The next one is just the plain old healing brush. And again, we have a cursor and we have hardness or softness. I'm going to make it a little bit softer. And this one, I'm going to work, oops. I'm going to zoom in on her forehead. And I'm going to target these areas. So again, I want to make my brush a lot smaller. But what happens with this tool is you can't just click like we did before. So if I click, I'm going to get this pop-up saying, you personally need to define where source is coming from that you want to clone with. So I'm going to, like this piece of skin right underneath here is good clean skin, but I got to try to match it. I can see that there's some shadow here and this is kind of dark. This is more tan colored. So this gets a little hard. The good news about this tool, the healing brush, is that not only will it fix it with the area that I chose as my source, it will then at the end blend the lighting and the opacity to make it look the best it can. That makes it different from our clone tool, which we'll see in a minute, where it literally picks up pixels and puts them down with no blending of light. So to set your point that you're copying from, we need to hold down the Option key. And when we do that, we get a crosshair. Now wherever I click is setting up my source point. So I'm going to click once, let go of my Option key. Now if I move my cursor away, I can tell that my cursor is loaded with whatever I just sampled. The color I sampled from right here is actually that dark when I move it over in another area. So that's the color that I've sampled with. So I'm going to come on a little bit. And then when I let go of the cursor, it's going to do a really good job of blending the light source, as you can see. So again, I could Option click right to the right of this blemish, and then I could paint this one in. Wait a second, it shouldn't take this long. And I feel like that didn't do a great job. So the difference between the spot healing brush and the healing brush is that with the spot healing brush, you need to set the point of where you're copying from. So let's see. So down here, this could be helpful because I could use this tool, and I'm going to make my cursor a little smaller, and I can Option click on her skin right here, and then I can come over and I can kind of take care of this small piece of hair. I don't want to get too close to the pink lip because it'll start blending there as well, and I don't want that. Just to show you how literal this is, I'm going to make my cursor a lot bigger. And if I set my clone spot with the Option key to be right here on her eyeball, so I'm going to Option click, and that's going to set my cursor to be literally right here. My cursor's still right here. So if I click and I start painting to the right, notice how that plus sign is going to the right, and now it's going to the left. So those 2 points, my anchor point with the plus sign and where I am now, are tethered together by a hard wall. You can see it's all really light. When I let go of my mouse, it's going to do its job, which is to kind of blend the two together and get the lighting right. So I don't have a hard copy of her eye up here, or ugh, that looks terrible. Definitely backing up a little bit here. Healing brush, okay, there. Now she doesn't have 2 eyes. That's much better. The patch tool, which is nested underneath here, is intended for larger areas, somewhere that you want to really patch up something. So if we were to try to take out her necklace, this might be a tool that we would consider. So again, because we're working on a separate layer, and maybe I'd even make a new one here and call this one the patch tool, just in case I botch this and I don't want to give up the edits I've already made on the healing brush layer. So we're on the patch layer. We need to sample all layers up here in the option bar. That's very important. Content aware is the patch, meaning it's going to be aware of what we're trying to do and deal with some blending as well. So what we need to do is we're going to, and it depends which way we have this set up. I'm going to make a lasso. Excuse me. Oh, come on, cursor. That was terrible. Try that again. Using this tool and not having a slow computer, you won't see these beach balls. So with the patch tool, I'm going to lasso out an area here on her skin where the necklace currently is located. And then I'm going to click and I'm going to drag that same marching ant shape somewhere where she has clean skin, and I want to use that sample to patch where I just was. So if I let go, it's going to come up there and we'll see what it does. The problem with this is that it might very well, it did an okay job. It did some blurring on the edge because it didn't know how we wanted to handle going from a black necklace to her skin, so it kind of blurred the lines there. But you can see it got rid of a big area of it. So you can imagine if you had a picture with a lot of grass and there was, you know, a soda can in the middle of the grass, you could very easily use this tool, encircle the soda can, and then drag it over to a clean patch of grass, and that would patch into the area that you first addressed. So that is the patch tool. I'm going to stop this and come back and make a second video on the clone tool and then how we use some of these in combination.